Hello students, welcome to the next session of economics. Today we'll discuss about the chapter 1 of your book Indian Economy on the Eve of Independence. This is from the Indian Economic Development book, and we are well aware with this term. India faced the colonial rule for a longer period of time. Indian economy under the British rule was subjected to colonial exploitation, and it implied a targeted exploitation of all sectors of the economy by the British government. So we can discuss that exploitation and the state of Indian economy after the independence under few heads. So these heads are like the first is key what they did, what Britishers' motive was. So the sole purpose of British colonial rule was to reduce the country to being a raw material supplier for Great Britain, owing to a rapidly expanding modern industrial base. So that was their motive. And on the eve of independence, Indian economy was in bad shape due to the presence of British colonial rule. There was a systematic deindustrialization in the country. Thus, in 1947, when British transferred power back to India, we inherited the crippled economy. Its growth, it was on a bleak growth. The pace of development was very slow. So we cannot say we inherited a good economy. We inherited a bleak growth of economy, and it was uh, there was a continuous exploitation of the resources by the Britishers during that time period. So there was the exploitation in the agriculture sector. There was exploitation of the industrial sector, of international trade, or we can say foreign trade. There was a exploitation by the Britishers in our country. So if we'll discuss about the state of Indian economy on the eve of independence, so we can simply identify that there was a low economic growth in the country. Agriculture sector was stagnant at its bottom. Unmodernized industrial sector was there, as they didn't do anything for the betterment of the industries or establish the new industries. There was a poor growth of the foreign trade in the country. Occupational structure was imbalanced. Majority of the people were working in the agriculture sector, and there was a disguised employment easily found in agriculture sector. Infrastructure was developed in country, but it was only for the betterment or the benefit for the British administration. Like there was a expansion of we can say the post office, the telegram, the railways, and the roads, the ports, but their all motive was not to develop India, but strengthen their administrative uh, power through these mediums of transport and of the communication. The next is the demographic condition was also not good in India, and we'll discuss that demographic condition also when we'll discuss these all the problems in the chapter. So the first point is low economic growth. So India had an independent economy before the arrival of British rule, and India was particularly well known for its handicraft industries in the fields of cotton and silk textile, metal and precious stone works were there, and it was a exporter of the finished products before them. So Britishers formed policies that protected and promoted the economic interest of their own country, thereby transforming India into raw material suppliers and consumer of finished goods from the Britain. So that was a clear strategy of the Britishers. They converted India into a raw material supplier or producer country and made it the consumer of the finished goods from their country, Britain. So this was the major reason for the economic growth in our country. So, if we'll talk about the state of agriculture sector India after the independence or at the time of the independence, the agriculture was the main source of livelihood for most of the people in the India. About 85% of the population lived mostly in villages and derived livelihood directly or indirectly from the agriculture at that time. So, thus, agriculture was the backbone of Indian economy on the eve of independence. So now we'll discuss about
the methods. So there were traditional methods of agriculture were there. Bullocks were mainly used for the ox and bullocks were used for doing the production, and the farmers were using the traditional methods. There was even the in the early 20th century there was the development of canals were there, but they were not the proper use and the implementation of the policies. Still, the country was far from the new methods, techniques, or the tools of farming. So our output was very low, and there was no significant land improvement or land betterment plans launched during that British period. The representatives of the Britishers were zamindars, and they just exploited more and more to the Indian uh, farmer tenants or the peasants. So, what were the main cause of the stagnation of agriculture sector? We can discuss here. So, despite agriculture being the occupation of large number of people, it continued to experience stagnation and not infrequently unusual deterioration. So, the reason for a stagnation of agriculture sector was we can discuss here. The first was land revenue system was faulty in our country. Lacking of resources were there in the India, and commercialization of the agriculture was responsible for the stagnation of agriculture in our country. So in commercialization, what they did uh, in commercialization, they forced or they have given the option to to Indians to produce indigo, tobacco like crops, which were giving them they were giving them the money in cash, and they were telling ki now you can purchase anything you want, any modern products, any Britain products, any foreign products, or better quality product from this cash. On the other hand, you are producing the food grains, and you're not getting the proper market price, and there is no proper channels to sell your product. There are lots of mediatories, middlemen in this system. So they encourage them, you produce the cash crops, and that cash crop was going to help the Britishers in their country, which helped them later in the industrial uh, revolution in Britain. So that we can discuss as ki that was a positive but more negative point as that time period. Ki during the British rule, they did commercialization of agriculture. From current prospect, it was good. Our outlook must be of this type and current situation, but at that time that adversely impacted the Indian economy, and later at the time of the prime ministership of late Lal Bahadur Shastri, we faced the severe drought, famine, and even people were asked to do the fast because there was lack of food grain in our country. Later on, in early 70s or late 60s, the Green Revolution came in our country, and we became food grain sufficient. We managed the system. We were sufficient in the food grain production, and after that Green Revolution. If we'll discuss about the industrial sector on the eve of independence, so before the advent of British Empire, India was popularly known for its handicraft industries, which was a world famous market. And the primary motive of British colonial government behind the policy deindustrializing India was to make India as a mere exporter of important raw material for industries in Britain. Yeah, this point, and to turn India into a sprawling market for the finished products for those industries. And thus, India could not develop a sound industrial base under the colonial rule. And also, they dethroned many kings, Nawabs, and Rajkumars. And that is why there was a huge demand of the Indian goods handicrafts in those courts, princely courts, and the darbars. But as per there were no such rule remain in the country. So, due to this policy of the Britishers, systematically it was finished in India. We can also discuss the slow growth of modern industry. Like the during the second half of 19th century, modern industry began to take root in India, but its progress remained very slow. We can discuss it within a case study or example. The development of modern industry was confined to setting up of cotton and jute textile mills. That was the starting of the industrial I can say the industrial establishment in our country. The Tata Iron and Steel Company (TISCO) was incorporated in 1907. A few industries in field of sugar, cement, and paper came up after the Second World War, and but the rate of the establishment of modern industries was very slow. If we'll see the foreign trade status at that moment, so India has been an important trading nation since in ancient times. The restrictive policies of commodity production, trade, and tariff pursued by colonial government adversely affected the structure and composition and volume of India's foreign trade. So, we can say during the British rule, the Indian foreign trade was restricted to Britain only, and approximately 90% of trade was only with the Britain at that time period. So, India became the exporter of raw materials and importer of finished goods from Britain. So, this we can say that was a clear exploitation of Indian economy during that period, and we can say sometimes we call this as a drain of wealth also. Ki all the resources, all the raw material, all the minerals, all the wealth of such resources was going to the Britain, and we were importing. We were more on the, if we'll talk about the exports, so they were more export from the Indian ends. Its export was part was large. India was doing more exports, but imports were less. But that was totally negative because we were exporting the raw materials, we were exporting the minerals, the resources, and we were importing the finished goods. So always a country who is exporting the raw materials, the agricultural products, the resources to the other countries, so that country comes under the category of the underdeveloped or developing. So it was a adverse impact on the Indian economy. Occupational structure if we'll discuss. So we discussed that India's main occupation was your agriculture was there. 80% or 85% approx people were engaged in farming. So during the colonial period, the occupational structure of India such that so we can say the such that distribution of working persons across different industries and sectors showed little sign of change. The agriculture sector accounted for the largest share of the workforce, which remained at a high of 70 to 75% of the workforce, while the manufacturing and service accounted for only 10 and 15 to 20% respectively. So there was less percentage involved of the people in the service sector and the manufacturing sector. And the striking aspect was the growing of regional variations. Parts of Madras Presidency showed decline in the workforce dependent on agriculture, while states like Rajasthan, Odisha, and Punjab showed increase in the workforce during that time period. So if we'll discuss about the infrastructure development of the state of the infrastructure in the country on the eve of independence. So infrastructure comprise of such industries which help the growth of other industries. Under the colonial period, basic infrastructure such as roads, railways, ports, water transport, posts, and telegraphs developed. However, the real motive behind this development was not to provide basic amenities to the people, but to subserve the colonial interest. It was for the betterment or the proper administration of the Britishers. They did it. The British introduced railways in India in 1850 and it began its operation in 1853. You can see in the picture at the right corner, right bottom corner, it's written India. In India, first railway was built between Mumbai and Thane in 1852, and the first passenger train ran between the two stations, covering a distance of 34 km on April 16, 1853. So I think it's clear. If we'll talk about the demographic condition, means the count of people, the death rate, the birth rate, the male female ratio in the total population, that is your demographic profile, the count of the people. So various details about the population of British India were first collected through the census of in 1881. It was the first census held in 1881, and before 1921 India was in the first stage of demographic transition. The second stage began after 1921. From this year, the population began to grow rapidly. In this, before that year, sometimes population increasing rate also declined. The population grew at the rate of 1.2% up to 1950.
51. So demographic transition means the years when s- began started increasing, and before that, it was not increasing so rapidly and declined even after. But there was a continuously increase in the population after that time. So now our last topic or last point is demographic condition on the eve of independence. So we can clearly see we can say that there was a high illiteracy rate in the country. Low life expectancy was there. There was a high mortality rate and high birth and death rate. What it means? Low literacy means there were less number of people in the country who were literate. Low life expectancy, if we'll discuss about this topic, so at that time there was only 38 years age, which is now 62 to 65 years age. Now life expectancy is between. That is due to the better health facilities now in our country. So, a developing or underdeveloped country showed the low life expectancy, low literacy rate, high mortality rate. So, in India, there was a high mortality rate on the eve of independence. So, if we'll talk about the infant mortality rate, so it at the time of it was very high. It was about 218 per thousand, while at present it is 34 per thousand. High infant mortality is a sign of poor healthcare associated with extreme poverty. In the life expectancy, if we'll talk, it means the average life of a person. It was low as 32 years, while presently it is 68 years. Low life expectancy reflects lack of healthcare facilities, lack of awareness of, as well as lack of means to avail them. And literacy may, if we'll talk about, so literacy rate referring to those who can read and write, it was nearly 16% at that time, reflecting social backwardness as a reflection of economic backwardness. Female literacy rate was still worse, only 7%. This indicated gender bias in the society. We were talking about the year 1921 as a year of great divide. Prior to 1921, population growth in India was never consistent. Size of population kept fluctuating, increasing in one census and decreasing in another census. That was the ratio. But after that year, continuously, there was an increase in the population, we can say. That is why this is called year of great divide. So lastly, we on the last topic of the chapter, that is, was there any positive impact on of the British rule in India? So there were some positive impact, we can say. The commercial outlook of the farmers, like they forced commercialization of agriculture under the British rule, and it exposed the subsistence farmers to uncertainties of the market. True, but it has also led to the gradual change in the outlook of the farmers, and the farmers started considering market price of the products as an important determinant of their production decisions. And now they have started doing it in with the motive of profit earning. Earlier, it was only for the subsistence. New opportunities of employment also, they opened the door, like spread of railways and roadways opened up new opportunities of economic and social growth. The next point is control of famines. How we learned it from them, the rapid means of transportation facilitated rapid movement of food grain to the famine affected areas. Accordingly, famines were controlled. Next is monetary system of exchange. So there was a transition from barter system of exchange to monetary system of exchange, and growth of monetary system of exchange facilitated division of labor and specialization and large scale production. So the next and the last is the efficient system of administration. They gave us the efficient system. They taught us regarding this. Still, we are using lots of the policies of which were running even the British time period. Lots of IPC, Indian Penal Code. Uh, Policies are still the same which Britishers implemented. The British government in the India left a legacy of an efficient system of administration. This served as a ready reference for our politicians and planners. So, in one way or in a one look, we can see these were the five important positive impact of the British Empire in India. And before that, we have seen in it was exploited by the Britishers in India. There was a huge exploitation, and So finally, we are concluding this session, and if there is any question or doubts, we can discuss in the live sessions. Okay, students, see you in next class.